Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's flower arranging tutorial. I'm Hannah, and today we're going to do some really fun things with beautiful spring varietals. So one of my favorite things to use in almost any tall piece is the gladiola. And it grows from a bulb, similar to like how tulips do. And it likes to grow mainly in the summertime, but we get some really good ones from other countries, like in Mexico and from California as well. And I have this beautiful light pink one this week, and it's really strong and sturdy. So what I like to do with these glads is just take off the top few buds to keep them from browning, because they tend to get a little bit yellow after time. But you can't even tell that it happened. So we have glads today, and I'm just going to do this to all of mine. It may seem cruel, but it actually will make them look better longer. And you know, if you don't do it at the beginning, you can totally do it once they start to turn. Now gladiolas, they have this way of almost looking tropical at times, which is very interesting. The way the flower opens is really similar to how a hibiscus looks. I have one open bloom right here. And if you look inside, it's very similar to how a hibiscus just pops open. I love them for any kind of tall piece. Another varietal I had this week are tall snapdragons. And these are a really beautiful statement as well. A little more delicate, so you have to be careful, but they definitely add impact as well. I've already pre-stripped these, but I'm going to take off any of the other stems I left behind. I also have yellow alstroemeria. Alstroemeria is a very long-lasting varietal. It's a great thing to use for something that you might need for a week, maybe 2 weeks. I know I've had a bouquet of beautiful alstroemeria on my desk. It'll last 2 weeks plus, and people still ask, how is that still going? Because they open so quickly like lilies would, but they stay decently okay through the whole thing. And they're a really great thing, especially if you want to give a gift to someone, because you'll know that they'll last for them. I also have this nice dendro. It's a really beautiful orchid, and it adds height, but it also, you know, adds volume as well. It's always fun to have a nice exotic touch. I also have some aspidistra leaves, staple of course, and fatsia leaves. I always think of fatsia like a hand, because it looks really similar. So first, I chose this nice traditional tall vase. Just because it's traditional of a vase doesn't mean you have to make your arrangement technically traditional. So I'm going to start with my tallest piece, which is my gladiola. Make sure you shuck it. It does sound like corn when you do. So I'm just going to cut this so that the blooms are going to sit right on the top, the lowest bloom. That way, as it starts to open, it'll open all the way up. Perfect. And I'm going to place these in the back of the arrangement. I don't necessarily want this one to be all around. So since I've chosen to use 4 glads, usually I don't choose even numbers, but when you tend to, it's a great idea to use odd numbers in placement. So what I'm doing is putting 3 in the back, and then I'll have one that goes right up in the front, and it creates a little bit less of a confusion, because if you do 4, it doesn't really feel finished. But it looked like 3 and 1, that's a little bit more appealing to the eye. So now that we have our glads in, I'm going to go in with some snapdragons. And I really just want to create fullness from these. So I'm going to cut off anything that's going to go below the waterline as well. And I want to mimic the direction that the glads are going. But I don't want my snaps to go nearly as tall, even though they could if they wanted to. It's just going to fill out the piece. And you can see I'm using the glads as support, which is a really great thing to do. Because they are such a sturdy varietal, it's wonderful to like let them hold everybody else up in place. Here we go. So we're getting that nice fullness that I wanted. Now, I'm going to take some alstroemeria, and I'm going to use the alstro as our focal. A lot of people might not want to use it because it's not necessarily the most expensive flower, but it adds that pop that I really want. So I'm just placing this right up front. And it's going to create that fullness, but also that pop of color. And since it's long lasting, I won't have to worry about my front varietal just petering out. And just make this nice and full. Perfect. Now, I'm going to add my glad. So I'm going to cut this guy a little bit shorter since he's going to go in the front. Maybe pop off a couple blooms that I know aren't going to make it past the water line. I'm just going to place this right down here. And you still get this nice 3 shape over here, but you also get to see the little bit of color that this one will provide as well. So you're not wasting anything, but you're also still following the rules of good floral design. Now, I'm going to take a fatsia leaf. Yeah. And I think I just want to add this right behind the alstro to kind of draw attention to it and let everyone know that this is what we want you to look at. I'm going to place it in front of the snaps and the glads so that there really is that distinction of who's important in the arrangement. Then I'm going to take an aspidistra leaf and I'm just going to do a small loop through. And I want to just cover where these last stems go in and pull the tail right around. And this really focuses your eye right to where we want our focus to be, right in the focal. There we go. Now, I also have a little bud vase to use. Bud vase is the perfect little gift for someone or something to put on your office desk, which I love. So I have these dendrobium, and once again I have some 2s. So what I like to do with this dendro is just cut to where the blooms kind of start to be buds, and then I pull off some of the buds, and I create this double stem. And then I'll do the same with this other, and it creates a really full look. So you don't see that it's just 2 stems. It looks like a grouping of more. Perfect. There we go. It looks like we have just a nice group of orchids. Now, one of the simplest things you can do with a leaf like this, place it towards the side that you don't have the most buds on or the most blooms, and then just do a nice fold. And what this does in a bud vase is it also covers the stems, which is really nice. That way, as the water starts to get murky, you don't notice it. Now, we'll just take our last bit of bind wire, and we're gonna just wrap these guys up. I like to use green bind wire because then it looks a little bit more like the stems, and you don't notice that it's being used as much. It gives you a more natural feel. So see, now all my stems are covered by the aspidistra leaf, but I still have this nice little leaf flare, which is wonderful. Now I'm just going to cut this down to the size of my vase, and it's just going to go right in here. Perfect. There we have it. 2 wonderful pieces for maybe for your home and maybe for a gift. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.